Welcome back to another Halloween-themed scene analysis. Today I'm stretching the title Scene Analysis so that I can include multiple films, because as a franchise, I think that one of my favorite film franchises of all time, Harry Potter, manages to nail the concept of not showing all your cards at once, and more specifically, managing a large world, which is the topic of conversation today. The 8 Harry Potter films, based on 7 Harry Potter books, are all more or less increasingly longer than their predecessor, each with more and more information. But as we all know, not all that information can be forced into a single film, and one of Harry Potter's most challenging aspects is the size of its world, which gets even more difficult when you consider the length of 8 films as opposed to the page count of 7 books. However, rather than just throwing us into every aspect of the world, the films walk us through the world with Harry, and we learn different aspects about the world as they become relevant. For example, let's look at the most important world in Harry Potter, Hogwarts. Now, the books detail Hogwarts extensively, some chapters devoted to Harry, Ron, and Hermione just talking about what classes they have. And one thing I like about the movies is that, like Hogwarts, they are a learning process. Even though in the first book we know everything there is to know about Hogwarts, the first movie doesn't try and bombard us with all that information. Everything is laid out. For example, in each of the first 5 Harry Potter films, we learn spells slowly but as they're relevant to the film. Because if they just shouted different spells at random, no one will remember any of them. Instead, they even out our exposure to the spells, just like at a real school. You don't learn calculus before you've learned algebra. Take the first film, for example. Excluding countless spells Hermione uses, the spells we really learn are
Oculus Reparo, Alohomora, Wingardium Leviosa, Petrificus Totalis.
These are mostly utility spells, simple spells to represent Harry, Ron, and Hermione's start at Hogwarts. In the second film, we get
Expelliarmus,
Aronia Exime,
more or less disarming spells for defense to show that a darker time is coming. Prisoner of Azkaban,
Lumos Maxima,
ridiculous,
Expecto Patronum!
spells that confront people's greatest fears, whether it be Dementors or the Dark. In Goblet of Fire,
Imperio, Crucio,
Reducto!
Avada Kedavra,
Accio!
with the exception of Accio, all of these are destructive spells, and oftentimes fatal spells, perfect for the film of Voldemort's return. In Order of the Phoenix,
Protego!
Invicosus, Levicorpus,
all of these spells are used in combat, and then in The Half-Blood Prince, we get the Unbreakable Vow, in addition to
Episci,
Pugno,
and for the most part, these are spells meant to destroy and heal. And at least one spell from each of these films returns in the final 2 films.
Obliviate,
Reducto!
Avada Kedavra,
So there's a linear and full circle nature to the spells they learn and the events occurring in the films. In addition, aside from one-time spoken spells, there are no less than 3 and no more than 5 key spells introduced per film. This gives the audience time to understand what the spells do and why they're important to remember for later films. If they shouted them all scene after scene, no one would grasp their importance. The same can be said about the classes. For the most part, all the classes seen in the films are introduced in the first book, but not in the films. Because why waste a scene of them in every single class unless you have something plot-related to gain? We have 2.5 hours, not 400 pages. In the first film, we see Charms class, Potions class, and Flying class. Each class introduces a new element to the film: spells, Snape, and Quidditch. But interestingly enough, these classes are never repeated. With the exception of Defense Against the Dark Arts, where there's a new teacher every year, the classes vary from film to film. In the second film, they attend Herbology and Transfiguration. In the third film, Care of Magical Creatures and Divination. In the fourth film, it's only necessary to show Defense Against the Dark Arts because you've shown all the other classes. All the main classes have been addressed, and now things like the Triwizard Tournament and Dumbledore's Army can take the foreground. The only time we see them in class again is when Slughorn replaces Snape as the potions teacher. In exposing the audience to the world in this way, the details of the world of Harry Potter don't get in the way of the story. It's evenly spread over the Potter film's runtime. Now, this can be utilized in any film as long as there's a grasp of the world and how much the audience really needs to know about it and how much you care to and need to reveal. Thanks for tuning in. This has been another scene, or rather, scenes, analyzed.